I just finished watching the recent Mormon Stories podcast with David Archuleta. I loved every moment of that. I felt so seen. I am queer. Happen to be wearing this shirt. And I knew that when I joined the church at 17. When the missionaries were talking to me about baptism during my lessons, everything was good up until I was like, hey, but by the way, I am bisexual. Like, is that a problem in the church? And they were like, no. I had to talk to somebody else before I got baptized. I don't know if that's normal or not. They didn't even ask me any questions or tell me anything about queerness in the church, and that was 2007, I want to say. So like, I joined the church without understanding what I was getting into, but I was dating a Mormon boy, and I guess they just assumed that like I would just not be gay because I was dating boys, even though I told them that I was bisexual. I don't know, like, that was my first experience of like queerness in the church. I ended up getting married to the Mormon boy, and so it really wasn't an issue except for the fact that I was still attracted to women, and that was unacceptable in the church. It would come up. You look at it, you look at a woman, you think, oh, that's sinful, that's lustful. I can't think about that. I can't think that way. And I don't think that way about guys. Like, I love the men that I'm in relationships with, but it's not like that with, out in the wild for me. I didn't have a problem finding my husband attractive, but it was very hard to not find women attractive. And that was where my problem lied. At some point, I would tell my bishops, like, that I was gay. You get a new bishop every 5 years, if you don't know that. And also, if you move out of the ward boundaries, your church congregation is assigned geographically. If you move, you get a new bishop. So I would tell my bishops that I was gay because it felt like I had to tell them, like a confession, like I needed to mention this. And normally they were all chill about it. Like, nobody had a problem because I was married to a man. No one had a problem, but I still internalized that I had a problem because of the messages that I was hearing at church and messages from the prophets and general authorities, and things that you would hear. And knowing that marriage is between a man and a woman. A lot of the things in church also are centered around pornography use and seeing people in a sexual way or thinking about sex. Having these thoughts of, I like women, just watching a movie or whatever, even though I didn't watch things that were R-rated or higher. Like, I really avoided a lot of temptations because I was trying to not have those thoughts about women. At one point, I decided to go to the addiction recovery program. So I talked to my bishop about it, and I was like, this is the idea I have. And he's like, yeah, that sounds, go for it if you want to. So I went to the addiction recovery program, not because I was like watching porn every day, which is why so many other guys were there. Everybody was there for porn pretty much. But like, I was there because I thought it would help me strengthen my testimony to go to these meetings. It was these were people who were being very honest about who they were, and I thought that was good. It really was good. People actually being honest wasn't something you normally got in the church. But I was basically trying to build my testimony up so much that I wouldn't think about women anymore. I tried to pray the gay away, basically. I didn't even know I was doing that to myself at the time. I still thought I was like proud of who I was. I really did think I was. I think over the course of time, I became more proud of who I was, especially with like the Pulse nightclub shootings. That really hit me hard. Nobody mentioned it at church. So that's when I came out, because I felt like somebody needed to stand up for queer people in our church. Then like the 2015 policy that came out, that really rocked me hard, and I had to pray and fast for months trying to seek, why would God exclude queer people like this? It was just really hard being gay in the church. I don't think that's ultimately what broke my faith. It's realizing the church was a lie that broke my faith, but it made my life miserable in the church in so many ways, because I was constantly trying to become more perfect and more scrupulous, as the Mormon Stories podcast was talking about. I didn't realize that I had that OCD scrupulosity, but that is the kind of things that I work on in therapy now, is dealing with all that perfectionism and those problems. I felt like I had to be better and better and better to be worthy, and that's not what people in the church think their church is teaching, but now I realize that's exactly what they were teaching.